My name is David, and I'm 54 years old. I never thought I'd be here, sitting in a courtroom against my own daughter. But sometimes life takes you to places you never imagined you'd go. Sometimes the people you love most are the ones who hurt you deepest. I spent my entire life working, not just working, sacrificing. When Jennifer was born, I was 29. Her mother and I had gotten married young, and honestly, we weren't ready. But when I held Jennifer in my arms for the first time, something shifted inside me. I promised myself that I would give her everything I never had. Not material things necessarily, but security, stability. A father who showed up. I did show up. For every school play, every soccer game, every parent-teacher conference. Her mother, Susan, she was good too, but I was the one who stayed late, who made sure Jennifer's homework was done, who listened when she had boy problems in high school. That was me. That was my role, and I took it seriously because I loved her. I genuinely did. When Jennifer turned 18, I felt this strange mix of pride and loss. She was going to college. She was becoming her own person. Susan and I had already started having problems by then, the kind of problems that don't go away with therapy or date nights. We divorced when Jennifer was 19. It was messy. It was painful. But we both agreed that our daughter shouldn't be dragged into it. After the divorce, I threw myself into my work even more. I'm in commercial real estate and it's demanding, but I was good at it. I made real money. And you know what I did with that money? I invested in my daughter's future. I paid for half her college tuition. I bought her a car, a reliable Honda, nothing fancy but safe. I helped her with rent for the first apartment after graduation. I was there. I was providing. Jennifer graduated with a degree in marketing, landed a decent job at an advertising firm, and seemed to be building a life. But something was different after college. She was more distant. She'd call less frequently. When we'd meet for dinner, there was this tension I couldn't quite explain. It was like she was polite to me, but not warm, not like she used to be. Her mother told me later that Jennifer felt I was controlling because I asked about her finances and her life choices. Controlling. I was a father asking about his daughter's well-being, but maybe I didn't listen to that feedback the right way. Maybe I got defensive instead of curious. Years passed. Jennifer got engaged to a guy named Marcus. He seemed fine, stable job, treated her okay from what I could see. They got married at 25. I walked her down the aisle, and I cried like I hadn't cried since my own divorce. I thought, this is it. She's happy. This is what I worked for. After the wedding, something shifted even more. Jennifer and Marcus bought a house. They were building their life together, and suddenly I saw less of her. Holidays became brief visits. Calls became shorter. I started feeling like I was on the outside of her life, and I didn't understand why. I'd given so much. I'd been there for her entire childhood. Why did I feel like I was losing her? Then came the emergency fund conversation. It happened about 3 years into her marriage, at a family dinner. Jennifer called me on a Thursday evening. "Dad, can we talk?" Those words always make my stomach tighten. "Of course, honey. What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong, but I need to ask you something. Are you still keeping that emergency fund you set up for me years ago?" I was confused. "Yes, it's still there. It's in your name, but I've been managing it." "Why?" "I need to access it," she said. Her voice was tight, controlled. "Access it? For what? Is everything okay with you and Marcus? Is there an emergency?" "Dad, I don't want to get into it right now. I just need the money." This is where I made a choice that, looking back, changed everything between us. Instead of just handing over the money, I asked questions. I asked what it was for. I asked why she didn't have her own savings. I asked if Marcus knew about this fund. I was being a father, but I was also being controlling, even if I didn't see it that way at the time. Jennifer got angry. "You're always like this, Dad. You always have to know everything. You always have to control the situation. It's my money. It's my life. Why can't you just trust me?" "Because you're not telling me what's happening," I said, my frustration rising. "Jennifer, if there's an emergency, I want to help, but I need to understand what I'm helping with. It's none of your business. It's not an emergency. I just need the money." We argued. It was one of the worst arguments we'd ever had. I told her she was being irresponsible. She told me I was being invasive. The call ended with her saying, "You know what? Forget it. I'll figure it out myself." And she hung up. I didn't sleep that night. I kept replaying the conversation. I kept wondering what the money was for. Days passed. A week. 2 weeks. Jennifer didn't call. I called her and she didn't answer. I texted. Nothing. Finally, I decided to access the emergency fund account to see if there had been any unusual activity. It was set up as a trust, and I had authority over it as the trustee, something she'd agreed to years ago when she was still dependent on me. And that's when I saw it. 3 withdrawals, large ones, made in the past year. A total of $42,000. My heart stopped. I called her again. This time she answered, but her tone was cold. "Before you say anything, Dad, I can explain." "Jennifer, $42,000? What did you withdraw $42,000 for?" There was silence on the other end. "The house," she finally said quietly. "Marcus and I, we were having problems with the mortgage. We were going to lose the house. I didn't want to tell you because I knew you'd judge me. I knew you'd say we were irresponsible with our money." I felt my chest tighten. "So you just took the money? Without asking, without explaining? Jennifer, this fund was supposed to be for emergencies. Emergencies that I could help you navigate. You just took it." "It was an emergency," she snapped. "And it was my money. You said it was set up for me." "I said it was set up for you," I repeated, my voice rising. "But it was always understood that we'd discuss major withdrawals, that you'd come to me. That's how trust works, Jennifer. That's how family works." Well, maybe I didn't want to be dependent on you anymore," she said coldly. "Maybe I wanted to handle my own problems without you hovering over me, asking questions, making me feel small." And there it was. Years of resentment, all in one sentence. "I've never tried to make you feel small," I said, but even as I said it, I wondered if it was true. Had I been hovering? Had I been controlling? Or had I just been a father trying to protect his daughter? "You have, Dad. You always do. You give, and then you expect something in return. You expect gratitude. You expect to be involved in every decision I make." "That's not fair," I said, but she'd already moved on emotionally. She was telling me that Marcus and her had worked it out, that the house was secure, that she'd replaced the money in the fund already, at least some of it, that I didn't need to worry, but I was worried, I was hurt, and I was angry. After we hung up, I sat in my office for an hour, just staring at the desk. My daughter had gone behind my back. She'd taken money that belonged to me, technically speaking, even though it was designated for her. She hadn't trusted me enough to come to me, and she'd treated me like I was some kind of adversary, not her father. The days after that conversation were strange. Jennifer and I were polite when we had to interact, but the warmth was gone. Completely gone. Christmas that year felt hollow. We exchanged gifts, but there was no joy in it. It felt like a transaction. I kept thinking about what she'd said, about how I expected something in return for my giving. Was that true? Had I been that kind of father? Or had I just been providing for my child, like fathers do, and she was twisting it into something darker? I talked to my friend Robert about it. Robert's been my best friend since college. He listened to the whole story, and when I finished, he was quiet for a long time. "David," he finally said, "I think you need to think about why you're this angry about the money." "I'm angry because she stole from me," I said. "Did she?" Robert asked. "Or are you angry because she didn't come to you first, because she didn't let you be the hero of her problem?" His words hit different, real different. I didn't like what he was suggesting, but I couldn't unsee it once he'd pointed it out. Was I angry about the money itself, or was I angry that my daughter had solved a problem without me? That she'd been independent instead of dependent, that she'd treated that fund like it was hers because technically it was. But I pushed those questions aside because there was another part of me that was genuinely hurt. She'd lied to me, she'd avoided me, she'd treated me like someone she couldn't trust with the truth about her marriage, about her financial problems. That part wasn't about control, that part was genuine abandonment. So what did I do? I did the thing that made sense to me at the time. I got angry, I got hurt, and I decided that if Jennifer wasn't going to treat this like a family matter, then I wouldn't either. I called my lawyer. My lawyer's name was Catherine, and she'd handled my divorce from Susan. She was sharp, efficient, and she didn't ask a lot of questions about my emotional state. She just asked about the facts. "So the fund is in her name, but you're the trustee," she said, reviewing the documents I'd brought in. "Correct. I set it up when she was 18. I put money into it over the years. It was supposed to be for emergencies, college, medical issues, real emergencies, not for covering mortgage problems she didn't tell me about." Catherine nodded slowly. "Technically, you have grounds here. The withdrawals were made without your explicit consent, and while the fund is in her name, the trustee agreement gives you authority over distributions above a certain amount. She violated that agreement." I felt something cold settle in my chest. This was real. This was actually happening. "What are my options?" I asked. Catherine leaned back in her chair. "You could send her a formal letter requesting repayment. You could file a civil suit. You could claim breach of fiduciary duty, depending on how the agreement is worded. But David, I have to ask, is this really what you want to do?" I didn't answer right away. The honest answer was no. The honest answer was that I wanted my daughter back. I wanted things to be the way they were before this happened, but that wasn't an option on the table. "I want her to take responsibility," I finally said. "I want her to understand that what she did was wrong." Catherine was quiet for a moment. Sometimes taking responsibility and going to court are two different things, just so you're aware. But I was already decided, or maybe I was already spiraling, and I just didn't recognize it yet. All I knew was that I felt betrayed. And I wanted Jennifer to feel that betrayal too. I wanted her to understand that actions have consequences. I wanted her to respect me. So Catherine sent a formal letter. It outlined the unauthorized withdrawals, the breach of the trust agreement, and it requested full repayment of $42,000 within 30 days, with interest. Jennifer called me 3 days after she received it. She was crying. "Dad, what is this? What are you doing? I'm your daughter. Why would you send me a letter like this? Why are you being so legal about this?" "Because you left me no choice," I said, and I meant it. At least, I thought I meant it. You took money without permission. You didn't come to me. You didn't trust me. So now we're going to handle this the way we handle disagreements, through the legal system. "This is insane," she said. "This is absolutely insane. Do you hear yourself? You're suing your own daughter." "I'm not suing you. I'm asking for the money back that you took." "It was my money, Dad. It was money I put in a trust for you, with specific conditions. You violated those conditions." She was silent for a moment, and then I heard her voice change. It got quieter, but also harder. "You know what? You're right. Let's do this the legal way. I'll see you in court." And she hung up. I sat in my office for the rest of the day, not working, just sitting. Robert called me at one point and I told him what had happened. He asked me again if I was sure about this. I told him I was. I wasn't sure at all, but I was committed now. I was in motion. Jennifer and I didn't speak for 3 months, not once. It was the longest we'd gone without talking since she was born. My ex-wife called me and told me I was being ridiculous. Marcus, Jennifer's husband, sent me an email that was surprisingly diplomatic, asking if we could talk. I ignored it. I was in a state that I didn't fully recognize. Righteous anger, mixed with wounded pride, mixed with genuine hurt. The court date was set for a Monday in March. I wore a suit. I brought all the documentation. I brought receipts showing the money I'd deposited into the fund over the years. I brought the trust agreement with her signature on it, dated when she was 18 years old, and understood what she was signing. Jennifer came with Marcus and a lawyer of her own. She looked smaller than I remembered. She looked tired. And when she saw me, her face did something complicated. Hurt, angry, sad, all at once. The judge was a woman in her 60s named Patricia Holbrook. She reviewed all the documents carefully. She listened to Catherine present the case. Then she listened to Jennifer's lawyer present Jennifer's side. Jennifer's lawyer argued that while the withdrawals were technically unauthorized, the fund was designated for Jennifer's use. He argued that the trust agreement was overly restrictive and that it created an unhealthy power dynamic between father and daughter. He argued that Jennifer had genuinely believed the money was available to her in an emergency, and a mortgage crisis absolutely qualified as an emergency. It was a good argument. It was actually a better argument than I wanted to admit. Catherine countered that the agreement was clear, that unauthorized withdrawals had been made, and that the trustee had every right to expect repayment. The judge listened to both sides. Then she asked me to stand up. "Mr. Williams," she said, "can you explain to me why you decided to pursue legal action against your daughter instead of handling this within your family?" I stood up. My lawyer had prepped me for this, but I still felt unprepared. "Your Honor, my daughter took money without my permission. She violated our agreement. She didn't trust me enough to come to me with her problem, and when I found out, she was defensive instead of honest. I thought if we went through the legal system, she would understand that this was serious, that her actions have consequences." The judge nodded slowly. "And has it worked? Has she understood?" I didn't know how to answer that. "It appears to me," the judge continued, "that what you have here is a broken relationship, not a financial crime. Your daughter withdrew money from a fund that, by her understanding, was designated for her use. Whether or not that understanding was correct is debatable. But what's not debatable is that both of you are suffering because of this situation." She turned to Jennifer. "Ms. Williams, do you have anything you'd like to say?" Jennifer stood up. Her voice was shaking. "I made a mistake," she said quietly. "I should have talked to my dad about it. I was embarrassed. Marcus and I were struggling, and I didn't want my dad to know that we couldn't handle our own finances. I was afraid of his judgment. So I took the easy way out. I went behind his back. That was wrong." She paused, and I could see tears on her cheeks. "But I also think my dad has always made me feel like I'm not capable of making my own decisions, like I always need his help or his approval. And I'm tired of feeling that way. I'm tired of feeling like I owe him something just for existing as his daughter." Those words hit me harder than anything else had. The judge looked at both of us for a long moment. "Here's what I'm going to do," she said finally. "I'm ruling in favor of Mr. Williams. The withdrawals were unauthorized, and the trust agreement is clear. Ms. Williams, you are ordered to repay the full amount of $42,000 plus 10% interest within 90 days. I felt a surge of vindication. I'd been right. The judge had agreed with me, but then the judge continued, However, I'm also going to recommend that both of you seek family counseling before that 90-day period is up. Because winning this case isn't going to fix your real problem. Your real problem is that you don't know how to talk to each other anymore. And at the end of 90 days, when the money is repaid, you're still going to be a father and a daughter who can't communicate. She looked directly at me. Mr. Williams, your daughter is right about one thing. There is a power dynamic here that isn't healthy. You use that power, and now your daughter is going to repay you with money instead of trust. I'm not sure that's a fair trade for either of you. The gavel came down. We were done. Walking out of the courtroom, I felt empty. I'd won, but it didn't feel like winning. It felt like I'd taken something irreplaceable and traded it for a piece of paper that said Jennifer owed me money. Marcus put his arm around Jennifer as they walked past me. He didn't say anything. He didn't have to. That night, I sat in my house alone. The house felt bigger than it had in years. I ordered Chinese food and didn't eat it. I turned on the television and couldn't follow the plot. I kept thinking about the judge's words. Your real problem is that you don't know how to talk to each other anymore. I picked up my phone 3 different times to call Jennifer. Each time, I put it back down. What would I even say? The next morning, a check arrived at my office. It was from Jennifer's lawyer. It was for half the amount immediately, with the remainder to follow. There was a note attached. My client has arranged to pay her obligations. She would like to know if you would be open to family counseling, as the judge recommended. I stared at that note for an hour, and then I did something I hadn't done since the court case started. I cried. I cried because I'd gotten exactly what I wanted: the money, the validation, the proof that I was right, and it had cost me the only thing that had ever really mattered. I called Catherine. Catherine, I need to talk to you about something that isn't legal advice. Okay, she said carefully. I think I made a mistake. A big one. There was silence on the other end, and then Catherine said something I'll never forget. David, sometimes winning in court means losing in life. The question now is whether you want to spend the rest of your life being right, or whether you want to spend it being a father. I sat with that for a long time. I didn't call Jennifer that day, or the next day. I was still processing what Catherine had said, and I was terrified of making things worse. But I also knew I couldn't just sit in silence forever. The judge had recommended family counseling, and I realized that she was right. We needed help, professional help, because whatever was broken between us, I couldn't fix it alone. I called a therapist. Dr. Marcus Chen came highly recommended, and when I spoke to him on the phone, there was something about his voice that made me feel like maybe, just maybe, this could work. I asked if he did family sessions. He did. I asked if he could see us, my daughter and me. He said he'd be willing to try, but that Jennifer would have to agree to come voluntarily. That was the hard part. I wrote her a letter. Not an email, not a text. A letter, handwritten, because I wanted her to know that I'd taken the time. I told her about the therapist. I told her that I'd been thinking about what she said in court, about how I'd made her feel incapable. I told her that I was sorry, genuinely sorry, for how I'd handled the situation with the money. I told her that I'd been afraid, and that fear had made me cruel. I also told her the truth. I missed her. I missed my daughter. I missed having a relationship with her that didn't feel like a negotiation or a battle. I didn't know if she'd respond. I didn't know if she'd even read the whole letter, but I sent it anyway. 2 weeks passed, no response. I started to accept that I'd destroyed the bridge between us so completely that there was no way to rebuild it. Marcus called me at work one afternoon. "Dad," he said, and his voice was gentle in a way I didn't expect. "Jennifer got your letter." "Okay," I said carefully. Is she angry?" "She's confused," Marcus said. She's also crying. She's also considering what you said about therapy. I wanted you to know that. Marcus, I'm sorry, I said. I'm sorry for putting you both through this. I'm sorry for not listening to you when you reached out to me. I know you are, he said, and I believed him. Jennifer knows too. But knowing and trusting are different things. She's going to need time, but she's willing to try the therapy. That's something. The first session was awkward in every way possible. Jennifer and I sat on opposite ends of the couch, physically as far apart as we could be. Dr. Chen sat across from us with a notepad, and he didn't jump into anything. He just observed. "Why don't you tell me," he said to both of us, "why you're here?" I started to speak, but Jennifer spoke first. "I'm here because my dad sued me," she said flatly, "because apparently that's what fathers do when they're disappointed in their daughters." "I'm here," I said quietly, "because I realized I was more interested in being right than being a father." Dr. Chen made a note. "Interesting. David, what made you realize that?" I took a breath. "Because I won. The judge ruled in my favor. Jennifer has to repay me, and I felt empty. I felt like I'd won a battle and lost a war." "And Jennifer," Dr. Chen said, turning to her, "what did you feel when the judge ruled in your father's favor?" Jennifer's eyes filled with tears. "I felt like he'd confirmed something I'd always believed, that I couldn't do anything right, that he would always be there to prove me wrong." "That's not what I wanted," I said, "and I meant it with everything in me." "But that's what happened," she said. "You had a choice, Dad. You could have called me. You could have said, 'Jennifer, I'm hurt, and I need to understand what's happening.' You could have been my father. Instead, you became my adversary." Dr. Chen let that sit for a moment. Then he looked at me. "David, what do you think about that?" I didn't answer right away, because the truth was complicated. The truth was that I had been hurt. The truth was that I also had been angry about more than just the money. I had been angry about Jennifer pulling away from me. I had been angry about not being needed anymore. I had been angry that she'd built a life that didn't require me. "I think," I finally said, "that I was hurt about more than the money. I was hurt that she didn't come to me, that she didn't need me, and instead of talking about that hurt, I punished her for it." Jennifer was quiet. Then she said, "I didn't come to you because every time I've ever asked you for help, it comes with strings attached. You help and then you remind me about it. You help and then you ask 1,000 questions. You help and then you expect me to be grateful in a way that never feels like enough." "Is that true?" Dr. Chen asked me. I wanted to deny it. I wanted to say that wasn't fair, but sitting there listening to my daughter, I couldn't deny it. It was true. Maybe not intentionally, maybe not consciously, but it was true. "Yes," I said quietly. "I think it is." That first session lasted an hour. When we left, Jennifer and I didn't speak, but we weren't hostile either. It felt like something had shifted, even if I couldn't quite name what it was. We went to therapy every week for 3 months. Each session, we peeled back another layer. Dr. Chen helped us understand that my need to be needed had created a dynamic where Jennifer felt trapped. She felt like she couldn't be independent without disappointing me. She felt like she couldn't fail without confirming my belief that I needed to rescue her. And I started to understand something I'd never wanted to admit. I'd been using my love like a tool. I'd given Jennifer everything, my time, my money, my attention, and I'd expected a specific return on that investment. I'd expected her to stay dependent on me. I'd expected her to be grateful. I'd expected her to need me forever. When she didn't, I felt betrayed. "That's not love," Dr. Chen said gently in one session. "Love isn't a transaction. Love is wanting someone to be independent and healthy, even if that independence doesn't benefit you." "But I do want that," I said. "Do you?" he asked. "Because your actions suggest otherwise. It was painful to hear, but it was also true. By the end of the third month of therapy, something had shifted. Jennifer was laughing again, not at my jokes, but at things Dr. Chen said, and I could see her shoulders relax when she did. I was different too. I was listening more. I was asking fewer questions. I was accepting that Jennifer's life was hers to live, not a project for me to manage. One session, Dr. Chen said something I'll never forget. "Jennifer, your father gave you a gift, financial security, but he wrapped it with conditions that made it feel like a cage instead of a gift. David, your daughter received that gift, but she felt imprisoned by it. Both of you were trying to love each other, but you were speaking different languages." "What's the right language?" Jennifer asked. "Respect," Dr. Chen said. "Respect for Jennifer's autonomy, David. And Jennifer, respect for your father's love, even if it wasn't expressed perfectly. Love isn't perfect. Families aren't perfect, but they can be honest, and they can change." 3 months after therapy started, Jennifer called me on a Saturday morning. Not a text, not an email, a call. "Hi, Dad," she said, and her voice sounded like it used to. "Hi, honey," I said, and I felt something in my chest open up. "I was thinking," she said, "maybe we could have lunch, just you and me. There's something I want to talk to you about, but I don't want it to be in Dr. Chen's office." We met at a restaurant we used to go to when she was in high school. It was neutral territory, but it was also familiar. We ordered, and for a few minutes, we made small talk. "How was work? How's Marcus? How's the house?" Normal questions. The kind of questions a father and daughter ask each other. Then Jennifer put down her fork and looked at me directly. "I've repaid the money," she said. "Half the remainder came through last week. You should have it by Monday." "I know," I said. "Thank you." "I want to explain something," she continued. "When I took that money, I wasn't stealing from you. I was using what I thought belonged to me to solve a problem that Marcus and I had created together. We were irresponsible. We bought a house we couldn't really afford. We made financial mistakes. And instead of coming to you, to my father, and being vulnerable about it, I went behind your back and took the money." She paused, taking a sip of water. "I know I was wrong to do that without asking. I understand that now. But I also need you to understand something. I was more terrified of your disappointment than I was of losing our house. That's how much your judgment matters to me, and that's why I couldn't come to you." I felt tears forming in my eyes, but I didn't interrupt. "I think," she said, "what I needed from you was for you to say, 'I believe in you. I believe you can figure this out, and if you can't, I'm here.' But I didn't think you'd say that. I thought you'd say, 'I told you so. You shouldn't have bought that house. You shouldn't have made those mistakes.' And I couldn't handle that." "Jennifer," I said quietly, "I would never say those things." "I know that now," she said, "but I didn't know it then, because that's the version of my father I'd learned to expect." We sat in silence for a moment. The waiter came and refilled our water glasses, and we didn't speak until he left. "I want to apologize," I said. "Not just for taking you to court, though I'm sorry for that too. I want to apologize for spending your entire life making you feel like you had to be perfect, like you had to live up to some standard I had in my head. You were just a kid trying to grow up, and I was so focused on being the provider, the protector, the hero, that I forgot to just be your dad." Jennifer reached across the table and took my hand. "I forgive you," she said simply. "And I hope you can forgive me too." "There's nothing to forgive," I said. "You're my daughter. You were never my debtor." We finished lunch, and when the bill came, I reached for my wallet automatically. Jennifer smiled, really smiled for the first time in over a year. "I've got this one," she said, and I let her. 3 weeks later, Jennifer and Marcus came to my house for dinner. I cooked, which I don't do often. Jennifer brought wine, Marcus brought his easy humor. We ate, we talked, we laughed. Real laughs. The kind that come from actual joy, not from obligation or tension. After dinner, we were sitting in the living room, and Jennifer said something that surprised me. "I've been thinking about something," she said. "I've been thinking about that emergency fund. I know the judge ruled that I had to repay it, but I want to do something with it, something different." "What do you mean?" I asked. "I want you to close the account," she said. "And I want you to use that money for something that makes you happy, something that's just for you, not for saving for an emergency, not for giving to me, just for you." "Jennifer, I can't do that," I said. "That money was supposed to be for you." "Exactly," she said. "It was supposed to be for me. But I realized something in therapy. That fund wasn't really for me. It was a way for you to maintain control. It was a way to keep me dependent. And as long as it exists, neither of us can really move forward." Marcus nodded, and I could see that Jennifer had discussed this with him before bringing it up with me. "So what do you want me to do with it?" I asked. "Travel," she said. "You've spent your entire life working. You've spent it being my hero, being the provider, but you've never really done anything just for yourself. I want you to use that money to go somewhere you've always wanted to go. I want you to rest. I want you to enjoy your life." I started to protest, but Jennifer held up her hand. "Dad, this is important to me. This is how I'm going to heal from all of this. By knowing that the money I took from you has been transformed into something good for you. Something that has nothing to do with obligation or control. Just something good." I looked at my daughter, this woman I'd raised, who I'd hurt, who'd hurt me, and who was now standing in my living room offering me a kind of forgiveness that was bigger than I deserved. "Okay," I said quietly. And so I did something I'd never done before. I closed the account, and I booked a trip, 2 weeks in Italy, just me. No work, no phone calls, no emergencies. When I came back, I was different. I was lighter. I was more myself than I'd been in decades. Jennifer picked me up from the airport. We hugged, really hugged, not the stiff, polite hugs we'd been doing for years. And when we pulled apart, she said, "Tell me everything." And I did. I told her about the art in Florence. I told her about the food in Rome. I told her about sitting in a cafe in Venice and just watching people, feeling alive in a way I'd forgotten was possible. Jennifer smiled, and I could see pride in her eyes. Pride in me, not for being her provider or her hero, but just for being happy. "I'm glad," she said. Months passed. Jennifer and I established a new rhythm. We still went to therapy, but less frequently. We still had dinner, but it was different now. It was based on genuine connection, not obligation. She told me about her life, her real life, not the curated version she thought I wanted to hear. She told me about her fears with Marcus. She told me about a promotion she was considering. She told me about her dreams, and I listened, not to fix things or rescue her, but just to know her. One day, about 8 months after the court case ended, Jennifer called me. "Dad," she said, "Marcus and I have something to tell you." My heart jumped. I thought something was wrong. "We're pregnant," she said. I felt all the air leave my body. "Jennifer, that's wonderful. Congratulations. We want you to be involved," she said, "but not in the way you've been involved before. I don't want you taking over. I don't want you telling me what to do or how to raise my child, but I do want you there. I want my dad to meet his grandchild. I want my child to know you, but as a grandfather, not as a savior." "I understand," I said, and I did. When my grandson was born, yes, a grandson, I held him in the hospital, and I felt something shift inside me again. This was different than when I held Jennifer. With Jennifer, I'd felt the weight of responsibility. I'd felt like I needed to build a perfect life for her. With my grandson, I just felt love. Pure, uncomplicated love. Love that didn't expect anything in return. I looked at Jennifer holding her son and I said, "I'm sorry it took me so long to figure out how to do this right." "You figured it out," she said. "That's what matters." She was right. It had taken me breaking my relationship with my daughter, taking her to court, losing her, and then fighting to rebuild that relationship. But I'd finally figured it out. The truth I learned is this: love isn't about giving everything. Love is about giving what someone needs and respecting their autonomy to live their own life. Love isn't about control masquerading as concern. Love is about trusting someone enough to let them fail and being there when they do. I don't have access to Jennifer's life anymore the way I did when she was younger. I don't know every detail of her finances or her decisions or her problems. And I'm okay with that now. Because what I have instead is something better. I have my daughter. I have a real relationship with her. I have grandchild. And I have the knowledge that the love between us isn't transactional. It's just love. And sometimes that's all that matters.